Welcome to Thez Nutz Garage, and today we're going to be working on this here 1994 F-150. Alright, so you're probably wondering what we're going to be doing to this 1994 F-150, and we're going to fix the rod knock in it today. I know there's a whole lot of theories and wives' tales about how you can fix a rod knock with a belt strap. Well, I don't know about that, but I know one thing that will work. Guaranteed to drown out the sound of that old rod knock. That's this new radio. We're gonna put this radio in this here truck, and we're gonna do what everybody else does. Just crank it up. If the rod knock gets louder, we're just gonna crank it up some more, because that's what fixes it. If you can't hear it, there ain't nothing wrong with it. It's perfect. So we're gonna throw this radio in this truck. This is a Sony MEX-N4200 Bluetooth radio. Great radio. Got it on I think Walmart.com for 79 bucks. This has a CD player in it, which a lot of the radios that are coming out now, they're taking the CD players out of them, which I'm kind of against that because I'm kind of stuck on CDs, but I never listen to CDs anymore. So anyway, I just got this one. It's got the Bluetooth, got a remote, Sony head unit, which is a good unit. I've always really liked Sony head units for cars. I have a Pioneer in my 99, which that's a double DIN. This is a single DIN radio. It's a smaller radio, which is going to be an easy swap in and out of this truck. But let's just stick it in there because I'm tired of hearing this thing knocking. So let's get started. All right, so in this part of the video, what we're going to be doing is talking about the tools we're going to need to install this radio, where to get your radio, and what type of radio that this is. Now, this is a single DIN radio. It's very wide, very narrow. If there's also another radio called a double DIN, and what that is twice as tall as this radio, and it's still as long. So it's basically almost a square. Now, where I bought this radio from was from Walmart.com, because the place that I normally get my radios at SonicElectronics.com was out of this one. This is a radio that's going out of stock, so they don't have any left, and Walmart just happened to have, I think it was 3 of these left on their website. Now, if you buy from a place like Sonic Electronics, what's good about them, you can go to Crutchfield.com, places like that, is you can actually put in what kind of car you have, what kind of vehicle you have, and it's going to recommend what type of radio you need. So if you're a beginner at this and you don't know what double DIN is versus single DIN versus all these other type of radios, you can go there, and what it's going to do is tell you what kind of radio needs to go in it. Now, when you buy from like Sonic Electronics, what they'll do is you'll also get a free wiring harness. Since I didn't buy from there, I had to buy this. This was 10 bucks. You buy from Sonic Electronics, you'll get this for free, and if your car requires a dash kit, they'll also give you that for free. So you can spend 80, 90 bucks and you're going to get everything you need to install your radio in your car the proper way. Now, one other thing that I had to buy was these splice connections. Now, there's going to be probably 100 comments down below about these type of connectors. I went to get some heat shield, and I was going to solder all my wires together, which you can do that. They were out of the heat shrink shields, and I just was like, forget it. I'll just buy these. They're going inside the dash. There's not going to be a lot of moisture in there, so I don't have to worry about a lot of corrosion. So we'll be using these. The tools we're going to be using to remove the factory radio are these. And these are like little horseshoes looking things. And we'll use this to pull the factory radio out. I have some black tape. I don't recommend it when you put your factory harness to, when you connect these two harnesses together, you don't use black tape. That's going to not be good. It's going to give you corrosion and bad connections later on. But sometimes what I do with this is after I get all my wires connected, I'll wrap this around the wires to kind of keep them together and from getting all crazy. It's just a some way to retain the wires together. We're gonna need a screwdriver, some wire strippers, and some stuff, crimpers. And that's basically all we're gonna need in this part of this installation of this radio. All right, so let's unbox this box here and see what we got. Now on the side of this box, this has a Pandora. It's got the Bluetooth mic built in it. It'll work with an Android. It works with an iPod, iPhone. It's got Bluetooth. It's a really nice radio. I've already had one of these in a vehicle that I owned. This is going to be your harness that comes from the radio, and it'll actually connect to this harness. So we'll get to that here in a minute. This is going to be our, this is what they call a detachable face radio. So to keep people from stealing your radio, you can actually pop this loose and put it in your pocket. I remember back in the day when they used to come with cases, hard cases, so once you took it out of your car, you'd have a case to put it in, but they don't do that anymore. So that's what it looks like. And you can see how this is wide and skinny. Got some instructions. Here's going to be the radio. Comes with a remote. And inside of this pack, you're going to see it's got some of these little metal bars. You'll want to keep these because this is how you slide the aftermarket radio here in and out of your vehicle if you need to. Basically, it works the same way as these, but these are for aftermarket radios. So we want to keep on to those. Usually what I do is just throw them in the glove box. We have our owner's manual. It's getting kind of hard nowadays even for radios to come with these paper manuals because everything's just going to them online. More instructions or a warranty or something. And that's basically the end of that, empty that box out. What I'm going to do is throw this back in the box. This probably has a lot of your installation instructions in it, but we don't need those. All right, so let's take the radio out of the wrapper here. All right, so here's our radio, and the way this will go in is you just kind of push it in on one side and then push it. I guess if I put this in the right way, just clicks in like that. If you want to take it out, there's a little eject button right there and it pops it out. So we're going to set this back to the side. And also before we get too carried away with installing this radio, there's actually, I don't know if you can see it, but this little trim piece right here, this little black trim piece right here, we need to remove that. And usually there's a couple of tabs in the top, a couple of tabs in the bottom. And what we'll do is just take our screwdriver and just slightly push down on the, you don't want to push too hard because you don't want to break them. Flip it over. And this will just pop off. After we install the radio, this will be one of the last things we put on it. That's just a trim piece. Now, with this radio, sit this like this, there's two parts of it. There's this metal case you see here, and then there's this. Comes about halfway, or maybe 40% of the depth of this radio. And basically what this is a sleeve. And what that sleeve does is it makes it where the radio will actually lock into this. So this gives it its stability. So we're actually going to need these two little metal clips. I'll call them release rods. How about that? And what we have to do is there's, once again, it's kind of hard to see. There's a little, it's indented right there, but it kind of sticks out right there. What we want to do is take the part that's sticking out and put it on the outside. And we're going to just run it right down the center. What it does is it releases the outer, this sleeve from the radio. Oh, maybe I got it backwards. Yeah. Oh, there it goes. So basically what it does is it allows this sleeve to slide out. And this is what we're going to be using to mount the this radio in our truck. So we're going to go out to the pickup truck now. We're going to remove the factory radio, and we will install this sleeve. All right, so this is the factory radio that we have. Now, like I said, we're going to be using these pins here. And basically, we just, on a Ford radio that's factory, it'll have 2 holes on each side. And basically, all you have to do is stick these pins in, just like this. Kind of got to squeeze them together a little bit. We'll turn the radio off, and then basically you just squeeze in. You just pull apart like that. Pull it apart and then pull out. So now we have we got a problem there. We'll fix that. The FM antenna here looks like it's broke. We'll fix that in a minute. But basically you have 2 sets of plugs, and on each side you'll have a little pin you push back in, and it'll just slide out. You see that it's gray. Just push that pin in, and these harnesses will slide right out. So there's the factory radio. We've uninstalled it. So what we need to do is we're going to have to match up our wiring harness that we have in there, just to double check and make sure they fit here. And then what I'll do is we'll get ready to install this sleeve. All right, so now we have our wiring harnesses, and this is everything that come in that little box. So there's a whole lot of wires here that we really don't need, because we only have these 2. So you can tell this is just a row of pins. Each one of them is just a row. This harness here has double rows, so we don't need this because that's just not the right plug. Won't fit. Just ain't gonna work. So here's one that's black. It's a single set of row of pins in there, you can tell. So we can look at the way the radio or the harness is made. We have it where it comes flat across the bottom, and then it has this little drop down tab. I don't know if you can see it very well, but there's a little tab that drops down. And in this one you can see that it drops down right on this side. So this plug here is just going to snap right into it, just like that. So we know that one's the one we're going to need. That one doesn't look like it fits anything there. I mean, that doesn't fit. No matter how hard we try, that's not going to work. So this one is the same way. And you can basically kind of tell too, because guess what? That's gray. This is gray. This harness was black here, and this harness is black. So basically you're just going to flip it over till it slides in freely. If it doesn't fit, don't force it, because if you do, you're going to break it. So now we can see that we have our 2 harnesses that are going to go into our dash. So what we're going to have to do is take them back out, and what we'll do now is we will wire these to the harness that comes off of our radio. Now, one warning is if you're ever installing a radio, there's going to be very few exceptions that you cannot buy a harness like this for. If you have to cut the factory wiring back here, you're making a major mistake. Do not, under no circumstance, cut these wires to try to install your radio. You can 99.9% of the time get a harness like this that's going to make your installation easier. It's going to sound better, and you're not going to damage or destroy your harness in your vehicle. Because if you start cutting into these and you don't know what you're doing, you just made it a nightmare. So never, never, unless the rare circumstance that you have to, cut a factory wiring harness. So let's remove these, unplug these. I just push the button in, they pop out. And what we're going to do next is we're going to install our sleeve. Now we're just going to push the wires back in the dash like this. Just going to set them back in there like that right there for now. And what we're going to do is we're going to install this sleeve. Now this sleeve, I don't know if you can tell it, but on the front edge up here it's got a little lip and the back is smooth. This lip is what catches the edge of this dash. Now being like I said, this is a single DIN radio, we don't really need an extra wire dash kit because this will fit perfectly. So it'll just slide right in this hole with a little bit of, you gotta snug it in there, but once you do, it just slides right in. So once it slides right in, the radio will just slide in and lock into that. But if we were to slide the radio in it right now, we could pull all of it out. This isn't really attached to the dash. So how do we get this piece of metal attached to this dash? Well, if you look on the side of this radio right here, you're going to see these little fins. And basically, these are what catches the inside of the dash on the corners. There's even some on the side. You got little ones here and here and here. They're all the way around this radio. Now with this sleeve, it doesn't matter whether you install it like this or like this. It just really matters because you can't put this in wrong this way because this lip is catching. So you can't install it upside down because it's exactly the same. But you just got to make sure that your lip is facing out towards you. So what we're going to do is just slide it back in there. And this is where our screwdriver is going to come in handy. Those little fins that I showed you, you have to look in here and you have to push on them. So we would go inside and push up on, say, this fin, and what it's going to do is raise up, and as it raises up, it's going to catch the back side of this dash. And we're going to do it all the way around so that way it's really tight. I'm going to start out on the side. Basically, I'm just pushing down on some of these fins. And you just push them in. I mean, and you can tell it's, you know, it won't come out right now, but that's still too loose. If you put your radio in there, it's going to be jiggling around. So it's getting better, but we're going to have to do some on the bottom. Do some on the top. Now our sleeve's in there pretty tight. It's not coming out. So what we'll need to do is just come in here and grab our wires again that we have. Pull them back through. I kind of braided them or twisted them together so that way they would stay as a group there. There's only 3. So, all right, so now we have these, the sleeve in for the radio. What we're going to go and do now is match up these wiring harnesses with the harness from the aftermarket radio. All right, so now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be wiring up our harness that we bought, which is come in this box that we just checked for the fitment in the truck, to our radio harness, and this harness goes to the radio. What we're going to be doing is connecting all of these wires so that way we can have one plug that will plug in from the radio into the truck. Now, on the side of this box, it's going to, on this side over here where it's in English, it gives you all your wiring codes. I guess maybe you can see all of that. Tells you which ones go where. Now, one good thing about buying an aftermarket radio and a harness like this is that most of the time, all of your wires are color coded between the aftermarket harness and the aftermarket radio harness. So you'll have a solid green and a solid green with a black wire. Well, there's a green, solid green, and a green with a black wire. You'll know these two go together. White and white. Grays and grays, and purple. So your two purples, your two grays, your two greens, and your two whites are your speakers in your vehicle. This is going to be your power plug. Yellow, there's a yellow wire on here. There's going to be a red wire. Black, right there. The blacks will match up. And then we have a blue and a blue. Those match up. Now, one thing we don't have on the radio here that we have on here is this orange wire. Usually the orange wire is for illumination. So when you turn your headlights on your car, on your gauges inside of your car, and you turn your brightness down or you turn your brightness up, that's what this wire is for. Since this radio doesn't have that function, but what it would normally do is dim the radio with the lights on your dash. Since this radio doesn't have that option, we can't do that. All right, so the next thing is you can see on the harness that we bought that come in this box here, the wires are kind of already pre-cut to a length. On these, both of them are the same way. These are not. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to start out with our speaker wires, which will be two whites, the two greens, two grays, and two purples. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in here and take my wire strippers that I have, and I'm just going to kind of strip them back. You see this wire stripper here, it has different size little teeth. You want to find one that doesn't cut all the way through it, but will strip it back. And you're just going to squeeze it and pull. And then now we have that right there, if you can see that. So I'm going to do that to all these wires and get ready to start connecting them. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to do one set of wires. We're going to start out with the white wires. Now the box says that the white with the black stripe is the front left negative speaker wire. The solid white wire is the front left positive wire. So what we're going to do is we have our same matching color code here, white, solid white, white with a black stripe. We're going to put these two together. So what we do is we have our little crimp here. We're just going to slide it over the white and black wire. And usually what I like to do is kind of take my finger and twist the little copper wire, twist it a little bit so that way it's just straight and even. And you're just going to basically, there's a little hole inside of there. You're just going to slide this wire in it like that. Now on my crimpers here, you see it has a red dot right there. That's telling me I need to use that area of this crimping tool to crimp these wires together. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in a little bit and I'm just going to crimp these wires down. It's kind of squeeze it with your hand and kind of try to pull it apart. And you can see it's kind of indented that little plastic piece, which there's a metal underneath it. Just try to pull it apart. You ain't gonna try to rip it apart, but we got that one. So now we're gonna take the white and black wire from this wiring harness and stick it in here. Same way we did the other side. Put our crimp tool on there. And just squeeze. Now it's got a good tight fit. They make a bunch of different crimping tools for this stuff. You know, you can find them at any auto parts store, Walmart, Target. Doubt the dollar store has them, but still. You can find them just about anywhere. This can be a little bit kind of tedious the way these are made, but Got a pretty good fit. I'm gonna squeeze it a little bit more. It's kind of, all right. So now we have 2 good fittings. Now something that you can do as a tip is, in order to keep your wires from being bunched up in the middle, because every time you keep putting crimps in the same spot, you kind of make a big bulge in your wiring harness. So what you can do is you can take, kind of try to offset them a little bit, so that way they're not all in the same exact place. So maybe you start out with the shortest wire being like this, and then you just keep expanding out. You can make it to where all of your connections are not in the same spot. But I'm not going to worry with it too much. I have plenty of room inside my dash. Man, I'm over here I have plenty of room inside my dash, so I'm not worried about if there was a little bit of a bulge. So I'm going to do the rest of these and get them all connected, and I'll be right back. All right, so now I have all of my speaker wires hooked up, just like this. So what I'm going to do now is just take some of this black tape, and I'm doing this just to kind of keep it neat when I install it. Some people may want to use wire loom, just whatever you want to do. Tape's cheap, and it also just kind of helps keep this group of wires together like this. And I'm just basically going to, you can see how these like to clump together in one spot. Well, I'm just going to kind of jump over it real quick, and then come back to this side and finish up putting a little bit of wire up this way, and then run back down. And I'm just going to just kind of wrap all this up. And what this will help do too is it'll just keep some of any moisture out of it, and it'll just keep the wires from wiggling around. Anytime, the more they wiggle, the more chance they're liable to have a break in a wire or anything like that. So now I got that wire done. And like I said, there's a lot of different ways you can do this. If you want to solder them, you can do it. That's what I was originally going to do, but I just went this route. So this blue wire here is for a remote. That's for a power antenna, or if you're running amps or anything like that. So what I usually like to do on these is, actually it's taped up pretty good. You want to just make sure that this wire doesn't hit anything, because a remote wire or antenna wire is hot. So if it's just a bare exposed wire into your dash, it can ground out and cause a fuse to blow, or worst case scenario for your car to catch on fire. So what I like to do is, just since I'm not going to be using it in this application, I'm just going to tape up the end of it to the center of that. And what that does is it kind of isolates it, so it doesn't, if it does have a loose exposed wire, it's not going to ground out. So now all we have left is our yellow, which is what they call a constant hot. It always has power, or some will call it a battery wire. It goes straight to the battery, which it doesn't. It just always has power. The red wire is an ignition wire. So when you turn your ignition forward and your car starts up, your radio will start up. If you don't have this wire hooked up, your radio is not going to come on. So this is a constant ignition, and then this long wire is for a ground. You may wonder why this wire is so long. It is okay just to take this wire, since it's a ground, you strip off the end, and maybe there's a piece of a screw that's going straight to the chassis of your car or the body of your car. You can ground it out that way. But being that most cars use a power or an antenna, that antenna is also a ground. So you can use that antenna wire to ground out your car. And basically what I'm going to do is just use the factory ground from the vehicle right here to hook up this ground wire. So what I'm going to do is just cut it the same length as the red and yellow wire, so that way these wires stay all the same length. So I'm going to hook up the black wire, the orange, well, actually the black wire, red and yellow. These two wires, see how they're kind of tore off on the ends? What I'm going to do is pull these off, cut the tips of them off, and then I'll put a little black tape on them, because these two wires can be hot. And what I want to do is just make sure they don't ground out underneath the car. All right, so now I have my red, my yellow, and my black wire hooked up. I still have the blue and the orange wire kind of set here over here to the side. Now what I'm going to do is kind of do the same thing I did with this one, but to the yellow and the red and the black. I'm just going to kind of run these together so it kind of keeps them from wiggling around, helps prevent corrosion, anything like that. Like I said, you can use loom, you can use whatever. If there's a particular way you like to do yours, comment that down below. Just if you use duct tape, well, maybe you should think your way of wiring up your radio, because you're just going to have problems in the future. Even with electrical tape, you still need to use crimps, because you can, over time, have where the wires get loose and the radio stops playing right. Now I'm going to just kind of put a little bit of tape on the ends of these, kind of isolate these out, so that way they're not coming in contact with anything. You can see how I did that. That blue wire is completely closed up, so I'm going to lay this orange wire next to it. Kind of wrap that around it. Basically, I'm just sealing it up. And then to keep it from flopping in the breeze, I'm just going to put a little tape and put it right here to keep it from wiggling around while it's in the dash. And I'm going to run a little wire, this tape up to here. And then this should be ready for us to go install it in our truck. And one other thing about using tape or loom to kind of go around your wires is it also keeps your wires from chafing on something in behind your dash. You know, if this wire was to chafe on some metal, it could ground out and pop a fuse, or worst case scenario, burn your car down. So that's what's important about making these harnesses the right way and protecting them, is because you don't want to have an issue later on where it could potentially burn your car down. So we're going to get ready to go put the radio in the truck. All right, so now we're back out here in the truck, and all we have to do is just connect our gray plug to our gray plug, flip it over. The black plug to the black plug here, flip it over so that little notch right there lines up. Like that. So now all we have to do is plug this into the back of our radio, which is going to be this area here. You can see that you got a little block right there, and on the back of this radio it has quite a few things, and it's the reason why I got it. It has a rear sub output. It also has a left and right for amps. It also has a mic, and then I think that is a remote, and then here's our plug. So we'll just plug it in. You never know, you might want to add a amp in it later on. This little thing right here said remove before installing, so how about we just leave it on there like that. So the only last thing we have left to do is hook up our antenna wire, and that goes in this spot here, and that's what this is. Now this is truck doesn't require an adapter. Let me get these back in. This truck doesn't require an antenna adapter. I think sometimes the GM may require an adapter. They usually come with your kits, your installation kits. So now that we have all of our wires hooked up and they're good and tight, we're just basically going to slide the radio in there and push it till you hear it click. Well, it didn't click, but it's in there. So now all we have to do is come back with our trim piece that we had in there. We just want to easy put it in there. Just kind of click it in. Like I said, don't force it. Feels like my bottom doesn't want to click in. There it goes. There it goes. Now that we have our trim piece, we just want to click our faceplate in. And that's how we installed this radio in this truck. Now you heard that noise, that's for your CD player. So I'm going to turn the ignition back and we're going to go through it and make sure it all works correctly. Now it's coming alive. Now that's a time AM radio. Here's the remote, comes with it. Pull the little clear thing out of it and then the remote will work. So let's turn it on. So go through some of the features of it. Turn down the radio here. So this right here is your front USB plug. That's where you can plug in your iPhone or your Android, which is nice. Display. That's not changing any. Here's going to be your general. You hit the button. Here's going to be your general settings, your sound. So it's got a EQ in it, custom. If you want to do your own, let's do a preset. Let's go to rock. We'll pick some rock. So now we can go to custom. That's where if you want to customize each way the band sounds, each frequency level. That's good for if you have an amp or so like that. We're not going to do that. Set our balance, which that's center. We can do our right, left. We can go to fader, which is front to back. It's going to be centered. All the speakers are centered up. Subwoofer, we don't have a subwoofer in here, but if we did, you can adjust the subwoofer level on that and all of that good stuff. There's a lot of stuff in it, so if I ever want to add an amp to it, I can. So if I go back to hit this again, I can scroll to sound. Now I got display, so I hit that. I can do my dimmer, brightness. You can adjust how bright the radio is. That's synchronizing to something. Dimmer, brightness, synchron. Okay, so that's all on that one. So we go to Bluetooth, and that's when we can hook up our phone if we want to pair it for your Bluetooth. Song Pal, have no idea what Song Pal is. So that's your general settings. Demo mode. You want to make sure your demo is off. Usually for demo mode is where it's going to be changing colors and doing all this stuff when it's on. And that's for like in-store displays. So we want to make sure we turn that off. We don't want that on. So we got our clock adjust. So it's 1. It says it's 1 o'clock a.m. We're just going to go to 11 because that's what it is my time. 11. Hit it again. We'll just go back down to 1. So that was that. See here the beeping. If we want to take that beep off, we just turn it back. Well, now we've got rid of that annoying beep. Demo. So that's all of that. Yeah, so we got all of that. Just keep down here is a little back button. You just keep hitting it. It'll just take you back to all the way till we started it up. So that's basically the radio. You have an auxiliary plug in the front for like headphone to headphone jack. I don't know what that's called, but here's a search, which I don't even know what that does. You can also, here's a call. Here's a source button. So we have a CD, USB in the front, auxiliary, which is that, and then your Bluetooth audio, which we don't have anything hooked up to it just yet. So that's basically the radio in a nutshell. Pandora, tuner. We're just gonna go to tuner, and that'll take us back here, in which we can scroll to a radio station and see that it works. So that's how to install this Sony MEX-N4200 Bluetooth radio. Alrighty, so let's see if this radio has fixed our rod knock. I'm gonna start the truck up. You still hear it. Still hear it.
The wipers don't work and the horn don't blow, but there ain't nothing wrong with the radio. I've got 60 speakers crossing my back dash, a little Bobby dog watching everybody laugh.
Well, I don't think, no matter how good your radio is, it's going to stop a rod knock. So, alright, so that's going to be the end of this video. And if you haven't already, hit that like button. Do that now. Also, comment down below if you've ever installed a radio or you've got questions about installing the radio, anything like that. Just put that in the comments down below. And also subscribe to the channel. I think we have over 500 subscribers now. We're trying to get to that 1,000 subscriber mark. So if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. And what that does is let you know every time we upload a video. So with that being said, we installed a Sony radio in this truck, and it sounds pretty good. Now we could add the speakers to the truck, and we will do this in a future video, and that's going to make the radio sound good. But it's not going to make the truck rod knock go away, and neither did the radio, because the only thing that's doing is masking a problem. And when you have a car, if you don't pay attention to your check engine lights and the noises that your car makes, and try to figure out what's going on before they become bad, because a $100 problem can be turned into a $1,000 problem, and then there you are. You could have paid less money to have it fixed sooner, but you turned up the radio and ignored it. Well, you can't do that with cars. So you're maybe wondering, well, how are you going to fix this rod knock in this truck? Well, it's not going to be with a belt strap, and we're going to do it with this. And this is an engine out of a 1994 F-150, just like this one, and this is a 5.0 302 engine. The engine behind me has 144,000 miles, and what we're going to do is do several series on the options that you may take when you're having this kind of an issue. The first series will be, do you just do an engine swap? The second one is, do you buy an engine from a junkyard and rebuild it? Or do you rebuild the engine that's in this truck? So what we're going to do is cover all three of those in some upcoming series on the 94 F-150. So that way, if you're ever in the same situation, you'll be able to make a wise choice in what you should do with your vehicle. Now, that's going to be the end of the video. And like I said, I hope you subscribe. Hope you like the video. Please comment. And I hope y'all have a blessed day, and I'll see you in the next video.